Welcome to this module on stages of group development. My name is Khalil Patel, Program Manager for the IYF South Africa Country Office. This module will take you through the 6 stages of group development that learners may experience during your course facilitation. It is important to be aware of these stages, as this will assist you in monitoring the progress of your groups as a whole and determining what is required from both you and your students in order to maximize your students' learning experience. The first group development stage is anticipation. This is comprised of the students' feelings and expectations prior to the beginning of each class. If you're lucky, these feelings will be ones of excitement and readiness. But more often you'll be faced with feelings of hesitancy, shyness, and disengagement. So what can you do to ensure that students are comfortable before a lesson begins? Firstly, be prepared. Know your lesson plans and be very clear as to the intentions of the class. If you are not 100% confident in what you'll be facilitating, you can't expect your students to be 100% engaged. So be sure to be clear on the expectations and goals of each class. Secondly, create a welcoming environment. Greet your students, remember their names, and set an amicable tone before each of your classes. This will ensure engagement later on. If you'd like to save time, you can always set the tone of the session by sending a welcome letter to the students, managing their expectations prior to their first class. The second stage of development is orientation. This is whereby students begin to feel a sense of inclusion, contribution, and responsibility toward the group. A sense of solidarity will start to form as students begin to familiarize themselves with you and their peers. In order to foster this solidarity, ensure that you are always prepared with class materials so that you do not lose this growth momentum. Students respond well to unfamiliar knowledge in a familiar environment. So keep your lesson formulas consistent. Routine is vital in ensuring that this solidarity grows over the duration of your course. The third stage of development is norm setting. Most people respond well to rules as long as they are clear and concise. So, in order to inform students of their responsibilities and the boundaries of the classroom, you need to make the class rules known as soon as possible. You can do this by reminding students of the rules before each lesson. If this method seems too cumbersome, you can also post the class guidelines and rules in the room. Students usually try and test the boundaries and limits of a class if the rules aren't clear. The clearer the rules, the easier and more efficient the teaching and learning experience will be. The next stage of development is coping with conflict. The material you are facilitating will result in different opinions, conflicting ideas, and polarized discussion. And while this discussion is encouraged in the classes, students need to be guided on how to approach and respond to conflict. Create a safe environment and remind students of their personal power. They have the power to inspire and empower, but they also have the power to insult, discriminate, and devalue. Make students aware of how they approach conflict and how to separate argument from emotion. Be clear that students need to remain calm and respectful of ideas that may conflict with theirs. And also remind them that no one ever learned anything from repetition of their existing ideas. Conflict is a learning process, so remind them that they are responsible for their words and action in times of conflict, and they need to be mindful of others when engaging in argument and discussion. The fifth stage of development is productivity. In order to maximize productivity, you need to assess whether the previous stages have been delineated effectively. Have you dealt with the previous stages to your best ability? You might find that you need to revisit previous stages in order to increase productivity. For example, if you are finding that students are battling with following the class rules, place more emphasis on the norm setting stage And if the students are still struggling with responsible conflict, place more emphasis on the coping with conflict stage. By monitoring the group's responses during the previous stages, you'll discover what stages need reinforcement. So don't be afraid to repeat previous stages, as the more watertight they are, the better your group's productivity will be. The final stage of development is closure. As the class or course comes to an end, the students are thinking about what their next path in life is and how they can use the tools they've been given to help them achieve their future goals. In order to provide this closure, take time to review and check for understanding after each class. Provide a preview of the next day so students can manage the expectations prior to the next session. Show appreciation for the group's engagement, as this promotes confidence and subsequently more engagement in the next class. As it is unreasonable to expect all classes to fall exactly in line with the stages of group development, monitoring your group's development comes down to your intuition and assessment of the group's progress. Keep an eye on how the class is responding as a whole and jot down which stages you feel require repetition or re-evaluation as the course progresses. You'll find that as you finesse each stage further, your class facilitation will become more fluid and your group's productivity and engagement will increase.